Welcome to Mor-In podcast. I'm your host, Josh Morin, Vice President and co-founder of Field Supplements, as well as sobriety, woke, business, and wellness coach. Mor-In delivers an array of content based around marketing, health and fitness, personal branding, addiction, and often goes down the rabbit hole of conspiracy and the truth. If you seek to better understand the inner workings of human performance, consciousness, business, and humanity, you've come to the right place. Thank you for tuning in and tagging along. Let's get today's podcast started. What's up, everyone? It's Friday. It's a beautiful Friday here in Glendale, Arizona. This is 4 for 30. And hopefully that siren sound isn't coming from my house because bad boys, what you gonna do when they come for you. And I'm going to be running out this door if they could be knocking on my door coming for me. But cheers to a beautiful Friday, everybody. I'm drinking some coffee today. So cheers to everyone tuning in the morning. And kind of like yesterday, I didn't really have a huge plan of attack. Not a lot of ideas have been necessarily flowing, but I feel like once I start to talk about something, I can really get on a rant, on a roll. And today's the first day of May. So May 1st. First day of May, man. Let's see here. Make sure I'm correct on this. First day of May. That's right. So who else is losing the days and time due to this quarantine? If you're like me, I've completely lost track of my time, in the sense of dates. Maybe not Monday through Friday, but the sense of today's the 3rd or today's the 4th. It's been like that. It's been like that a lot lately. It's also really funny to see is when you step into a time variable where you don't have to be places as often, you're not as ran much by your phone or by the time clock, is how irrelevant time actually is. Now, I'm not going to go into how time was created by humans. We all know that. Time is a man-made thing. And I was actually laying in bed last night thinking about this, is that I'm trying to really develop a new sleeping schedule. So going to bed a little bit earlier, around 10:30, 10 o'clock, and then waking up earlier around 5:30, 6 a.m. And I used to think back, all right, well, this is such a crazy concept to be I have to force myself to go to bed at 10:30 or 11 or 9 or whatever it is. You consciously are looking at the time, setting a bedtime, and then you're tomorrow I'm going to allow myself to sleep 7 hours or 8 hours or whatever it is, and I'm going to set this alarm, and this alarm is going to wake me up tomorrow at 6 a.m. And then over time, obviously, you probably wake up before even your alarm wakes up, but 90% of the time, you still set an alarm just to make sure that you don't oversleep. And the concept is crazy to me because I've actually had the opportunity to spend weeks on end out in the wilderness, in the mountains, with no phone, no alarm clock. And what actually happens with the body, if you know this or not, what happens with the body is you actually will begin to follow the circadian rhythm of the sun and the moon. So you'll rise with the sun, and as night comes, you'll fall as night comes, because that's the natural flow of our bodies. Because during the day, we're naturally supposed to be waking, and at night, our body goes to sleep. And what happens is when you begin, regardless if you are in the wilderness or wherever else, is if you begin to fight this feeling, the feelings of going to bed, and if you begin to stay up late and you're a night owl, what actually happens is your body releases norepinephrine and releases that fight or flight mechanism. And that gets traced back to caveman eras, right? It's all right, if you were out past dark, back when we were Neanderthals or whatever you guys believe, when the cavemen were around, or early time frame of civilization, if you were outside, out in the dark, and you weren't home sleeping, your body sends a signal to say, hey, I need to send adrenaline to my body, because guess what? We're going to be fighting. There's something going on out here. There's monsters in the mountains. There's bears, lions, bears, monsters, crazy things happening outside in the wilderness after the sun falls. We obviously didn't have the technology back then A lot of times they were walking around with big old poles and light torches of fire torches, right? And so they don't have the technology we have now. Even now, though, I can begin to feel that when you're out in the mountains and you don't go to bed when it's time to go to bed, your body starts to release this adrenaline, norepinephrine, and you start to go, whoa, I feel awake now. And all of a sudden you go from this state of sleep to, whoa, I'm awake. I'm wide awake. So if you've ever experienced that, like during your days or during your nights, that's what's happening. And that's what goes on. And what happens is it's called adrenal fatigue. So most of us have some sort of adrenal fatigue, and I'll cover adrenal fatigue in completion at some point. But just to kind of go into like what I'm talking about is let's just say you stay up late every single night. Well, your body was not meant to do that. And if you fight that feeling, and if you're continually fighting that feeling, what happens is it fries your adrenal function, because your adrenal function essentially is responsible for almost 90% of functions in the body. It's very, very important. And what happens is if you continually fry your adrenals and you are putting toxins in them, as like caffeine, so cheers to that. Caffeine, stress, putting yourself in these high stress environments, not getting enough sleep, eating a high sugary diet, eating a lot of GMOs, you name it. And I'll go deeper into adrenal fatigue and how to detoxify your adrenal functions. But for now, let's stay on topic in the sense that, all right, so you stay up late, and what happens is over time, you create this adrenal fatigue. So what is adrenal fatigue in a whole? Well, if you ever feel tired in the mornings, it's hard to get up in the mornings. You're drinking 2 to 3, 4 cups, 5, 6 cups maybe of coffee. Maybe you're drinking an energy drink at lunch, and you have it that's like 3 or 4 p.m. crash, where you're like, you're crashing, right? 3 or 4 o'clock. So what do? You drink another energy drink. You drink some more caffeine. You have another coffee. And then essentially what you get home, you're insanely tired from the day. You get home 5 or 6 o'clock. You make your dinner. You do your workouts, whatever. And then around like 8 or 9 or 10, you get a second wind. And you're like, I am wide awake, man. I'm wide awake. That is a huge sign of adrenal fatigue. So, little science for you guys on this Friday. Like I said, I hopped on today, not necessarily having anything in mind, and I think that's the beauty of sometimes podcasting, especially with doing so many of these podcasts, is I have a lot of relaxed intensity, I like to call it now, as my mentor Jeffrey Combs would say. I have a lot of intense content where I could sit on here for hours and start to preach success and start to preach personal development and start to really deliver content based around business, marketing, skill set. But guess what? Sometimes I just like to hop on here and shoot the shit. And that's what's kind of what I would like to do today. And what I'm doing today is coming on here and shoot the shit. So if you are listening, if you're an avid listener of this show, I'd love to be able to deliver and shoot the shit on some content that is interesting to you. Shout out to my guys, ATC up in Las Vegas, Napoleon, Anicetti, Alex, Val moved up there. Don't want to give him too much of a shout out for essentially leaving me behind down here in the dumps. Just kidding, Val. But appreciate those guys up there doing a lot of hard work up in Las Vegas, and I'm excited to be up there and be part of that here very soon. I'm not moving to Vegas. I'll have potentially in the future a place in Vegas if it ever comes down to that, but I'm never moving to that place. Sin City, baby. Not meant for me. I was meant for the desert down here. The desert of Scottsdale. And it's a great place, man. I think that kind of brings up my last little topic here before I hop off today's podcast, a little bit more laid back than it has been in previous podcasts, is I hear people talking about not enjoying where they live. If you don't enjoy where you live, then move, bro. Or girl, whatever. Move. It's simple. I'll be the first one to tell you, you don't have to stay in the same spot. I've moved from Montana, came down here for a few years, lived in Tempe. Then I lived in Orem, Utah. Then I moved back to Montana. Then I moved to Kauai, Hawaii. Moved back to Montana. Spent a little time at Portland, Oregon. Moved back to Montana. Moved to Bozeman, Montana. And now I'm back here. So I truly believe that if you have something inside of you that says, hey, you know what? I want to experience life in a different perspective, a different culture, a different realm, go do that. I truly believe that perspective is the number one greatest thing that we can gain by living in other places as well as traveling. Traveling is number one, but if you have the opportunity where you can live somewhere for an extended period of time, a year or so, it gives you such a great perspective on what life is like in other places. That's what's really allowed me to cultivate the perspective that I have now, is that, yes, I am from Montana, and I love Montana, man. I can't talk any shit on Montana, but I will say about Montana is we're 25 years in the past. It is the Stone Ages up there, man. It's the absolute Stone Ages up in Montana. The things that are happening in that state, some of the ideals and views that are going on in the state of Montana, way in the past. Way in the past. And I'm not saying that they're wrong or right. I'm just saying that that's what they are. And I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to be able to experience life with so many different cultures, so many different perspectives, and be around a different thing than what I was born into. If you are staying in your hometown and that's like your life, if you're born in Montana and you stay in Montana and that's where you stay forever, man, there's not a whole lot you can learn from that. There's not a whole lot you can learn from that. Why? Because you're essentially stuck within the realm of what you're around. It's a pretty uneducated way of saying it, but essentially you are who you're around, man. And if you were in one place that has limited viewpoints, limited perspective, and I'm not saying that this is, but it's pretty limited there. We're stuck in the past. It's the Stone Ages. It's the horse and carriage ages up in Montana. If you were in a place like that and you've never moved somewhere long enough, we're not talking a couple months. You got to stay somewhere for a year. If you've never been somewhere long enough to be able to develop a different perspective, or at least to begin to understand different perspectives, then I highly, highly, highly advocate you packing your shit, selling it all, whatever you have, selling it all, and hit the road, man. Start a new life somewhere else. I was actually the other night thinking about this and how big of a trip it is. People are like, oh, man, you must have a million friends down in Arizona. Yeah, I have some friends down here. But my best friend, he just pieced up and moved out to Las Vegas. Doesn't even care about me. I don't have any family down here. So I don't get to see any family. And most of the time, the handful of friends that I do have, I'm seeing them on a very limited basis. But what I've consciously decided is that I love Arizona. I love the Phoenix area. This place has an incredibly high livability index. And so this is somewhere where I'm going to plant my feet for the next 20, 30 years. Maybe for the rest of my life. Probably. That's my plan, at least. But I'm planting my feet here, and I'm going to grow like a tree. Now, there's two sides and two things that you can do, especially when you're traveling. First and foremost, you can kind of be like a temporary plant. You can travel from place to place. You can receive the information. That's essentially like getting watered. But you don't have to, you're a portable plant. Okay? And if you're young, you can do this. If you're old, you can do this. Wherever you're at, you can find a way to do this if it matters enough to you. And then all of a sudden, you get to a point where you're like, all right, now it's time to plant my feet. Now it's really time to root myself in a place to be able to grow. And that's where I'm at right now in Phoenix, Arizona. So those are my two little tidbits today. Find yourself a bedtime. Don't overwhelm yourself. Begin to develop skills, habits necessary to become and be inspired, to become and be your best self. And I appreciate everyone hopping on, tuning in, tagging along with the More in the Know podcast. This is episode 4 of 30. Shout out once again to my guys, ATC, Anicetti Training Club up in Las Vegas. Be sure to check out my website, More in the Know. as well as Fueled Supplements. You can find us on Instagram at Fueled Supplements or fueledsupplements.com. Sitting behind me, it's the goods, baby. I'm about to go crush a Friday leg day. My favorite day to train legs. I don't know why. Friday's a great day to train legs. It's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to breathe. It's a great day to be grateful. And what I'm grateful for is the opportunity, another 86,400 seconds to be able to cultivate, create, deliver, adapt, change, be here, and live this beautiful life that we're all living. I appreciate every single one of you hopping on. Thank you for tuning in. Number 11 of More Than Know podcast. Love you guys. You have a blessed day.